everybody. Welcome to the Abroaders Travel Podcast, your weekly meetup with thousands of entrepreneurs, hustlers, creators, nomads, ninjas, wanderers, and world changers, all seeking to build the skills and connections to live a life without borders. If you want to learn more about what we do or download our entire podcast archive, check out the website, abroaders.com. Happy Wednesday morning, and welcome to another episode of the Abroaders Podcast. I'm Eric, here with AJ in Austin, Texas. This is episode 171. How's it going, man?
Going well, man. Good day in Austin, Texas here. Things are going well. George got in on Saturday morning. Yep. He came in from Sao Paulo on a pretty nice redemption, if I recall. So that's always good stuff. Also coming off Saturday, we met with a podcast listener. So Scott, it was a pleasure meeting with you.
Yes,
we went to Paco's Tacos, had a couple tacos.
By the way, Paco's Tacos is a gem. I'm really glad we
pleasantly
got a
surprised. I had a couple tacos. One was a steak taco. One was a brisket taco, kind of a Tex-Mex, very barbecue approach to tacos, and it was delicious. But it was really cool, man. We got to connect. We hung out for like an hour and a half, 2 hours with Scott, just kind of shooting the shit about award travel, kind of the travel he'd done. He was seeing his daughter in Barcelona, who was studying abroad, and they did a little Euro trip, and it was really cool. So Scott, it was a pleasure meeting you, and thanks for making some time to meet up.
Yeah, and for all you folks out there, if you do happen to be in Austin, please drop us a line, shoot us an email, and if at all possible, I really enjoyed this. This is probably the third or fourth time that we've met up over the last couple of years with a podcast listener, and just always a good experience. So if you're in town, definitely we'll make an effort to try and sync up and grab coffee, grab drinks, something like that. And I'd love to.
Yeah, and another thing, we actually got some good news today. We were accepted into a startup accelerator here in Austin, which is it's pretty difficult to get in. It's really difficult to get into any startup accelerator, but it's called Capital Factory. So we're really excited to get going with that. And what that means for you all, the listeners, is we're just going to have access to some more experienced business people that have been there before, and they're going to be able to guide us on some things and ultimately make a better product, provide a better service, and just improve everything, Yeah. So that'll be fun.
Yeah, high spirits here. All right, so we've got news and updates to go over with you guys. And for today's core content, I'm going to jump into some ideas about how you can meet minimum spend requirements. It should be a relatively short segment, but we've got a list of 5 strategies to go through. Now, these are white hat strategies. Actually, kind of an interesting conversation that we had with Scott. As a lot of you guys know, there are also some more challenging sort of manufactured spending strategies that are sort of in the forums. You got to do a lot of work to figure out how everything goes. So that's not what we're going to be talking about today. We're going to be just sort of focusing on some easy wins if you don't have quite enough regular spending, to just make sure that you don't miss out on your sign-up bonus. So we've got 5 different strategies for that. And all the show notes are going to be at abroaders.com/171. Let's get into the news.
Yeah, so the first thing we've got is an Amex Offer. So the way this deal works is it's with Amex and JetBlue. And so if you enroll in this and you accept this Amex Offer, if you spend $200 with JetBlue, you're going to be given 4,000 Amex points, which is a really good deal. And there's a couple nice things about this deal that I like that I think are a little bit different from the way these deals normally work. So if you enroll, you have until, I believe it's June, to spend your $200. It doesn't have to be in one flight. You can piece them together on a couple flights. As far as the fine print goes, one thing you will want to be aware of, if you buy from an online travel agency like Kayak or Orbitz or Priceline, you're not going to get credit. You have to buy through JetBlue, through JetBlue's mobile app. But I don't think that's a huge issue necessarily. I think JetBlue typically does a good job of being very competitive on price. I know I've priced out a bunch of itineraries in both cash and points on JetBlue. And not to mention that I think JetBlue is a really good kind of discount carrier.
Yeah, it's a nice experience.
They're a discount carrier without the discount carrier experience. It's
without making you pay for the water. I think this is good. I mean, 4,000 points is a really nice giveaway. This is a targeted thing, as with all Amex offers, so it's possible that not all of your Amex cards will have this available. And just be aware you have to activate it before you actually buy the JetBlue flight. So you just want to log into your online Amex account and take a look at any of the cards that earn membership rewards, and that should be available on some of them. I didn't check all of our cards, but I did see I was targeted for one on the business rewards gold. So that's a pretty common card, and it seems like this is pretty widespread. So it could be a good opportunity if you got travel that could work with JetBlue coming up. Okay, so next up, I wanted to do a mini sort of deep dive here on a award opportunity that was published just recently on 1 Mile at a Time. And I just wanted to share this because this is something that we've actually booked quite a few tickets with Virgin Atlantic in the last couple of months. And so I wanted to bring this up because it doesn't get a whole lot of love in general on the blogs. And frankly, for good reason. I mean, a lot of their award prices are sort of above the market with some of the other types of points. But I wanted to mention this today because Virgin Atlantic is currently offering a 30% transfer bonus from membership rewards. So you can transfer fewer membership rewards to get the number of Virgin Atlantic miles that you're going to need. And so today I wanted to just dive into a little bit more about their relationship with ANA, which is Japan, one of Japan's national carrier, the Star Alliance version. They also have Japan Airlines, which is in oneworld. But with ANA, they have a distance-based award chart. You are required to book a round trip, so this is not going to be helpful for any one-way travel. But the sweet spot here is basically for flights from the US to Japan. The way it works is it's calculated by the total distance round trip. And the rates just come in a little bit better, actually quite a bit better, frankly, than a lot of the other US carriers, the other transfer partners of Amex. So just to give you a quick idea, a round trip from JFK to Tokyo would cost that's about just under 13,500 miles actually flown. And so in first class, that's going to be 120,000 points round trip, 95,000 business class. It's 65,000 economy. That's basically exactly where the market's at.
I haven't had a chance to look into this. Is that the actual amount of Amex points, or is that the asking price?
That's the number of Virgin Atlantic. So you're going to get
30% discount on that
promo. So I think like the 120 comes out to somewhere in the mid 90s. As far as Amex points
take it under 100. That's a really hot deal.
Yeah, so a really nice deal, and it's even a little bit cheaper if you're on the West Coast. So if you're flying from LAX or Seattle, I'm not 100%. I didn't actually check the distance on Seattle, but it's got to be shorter than LA. And LA is at 10,900 miles traveled, which puts you just under the 11,000 mile band. And so that's going to be 110 in first class and 90 in business. Again, discount that a little bit by 30% because you're going to get that transfer bonus if you take action on those now. So definitely something to take a look at if you're traveling to Tokyo or somewhere else in Japan. These do need to be on flights operated by ANA or code shares. And so just for reference, their US destinations as of right now are San Francisco, LA, Seattle, Denver, Chicago, Washington Dulles, and Houston International. And then there's a couple of destinations in Canada, I believe Calgary, Toronto, and Vancouver. So some good options from North America and a really nice first class product. I'd say, if it were me, I would definitely splurge for the extra, 15 to 25,000 points to book in first versus business if it's available. But both are really good deals. Both are well below the market price. If you were booking with Delta or American, you're going to pay somewhere between 70 and 90,000 each way.
Yeah.
So this is a much better deal and a great opportunity. And ANA generally is pretty good with award availability.
Yeah, and like you said, I mean, we've heard. I have never actually flown ANA, but I've heard really, really good feedback of their premium cabins. So that's encouraging.
We've had some happy booking customers from ANA.
Speaking of premium cabin space, we actually have some pretty good news between the United States and Brazil in actual reasonably decent business class. So there's a lot of availability, I believe, in this December and January, going from Dallas to Rio. So things to keep in mind is that will be a Brazilian summer, which means it's going to be hot. However, I mean,
it's going to be nice.
New Year's in Rio is supposed to be magical. But some interesting things to note about this. So this is a saver level for American Airlines on business class between the U.S. and Brazil. And that is something that usually is not that attractive because a lot of the flights that they operate, the planes don't really have that nice of a business class. However, from Dallas to Rio, I believe they got the 787, the Dreamliner, which is pretty much the most modern plane they've got in the fleet.
And it has the new business class seats.
Yeah, so
definitely worthwhile.
Yeah, so the interesting thing, I read a review on 1 Mile at a Time about the 787 business that would be operating this flight, and he was pretty critical of the seats, but it seemed kind of nitpicky. He was talking about how if somebody in the seat connected to you is moving around a little bit. Sometimes you can feel it a little bit, but I mean, when you consider this business class compared to what the norm is for American, United, and Delta on even international flights, a really good deal. If you've got the the American miles or some SPG points you can move, so that is encouraging.
Yeah, business class will come in at 57.5.
Yeah.
So round trip's going to be 150.
Another quick tidbits is also taking advantage of that 5-day hold with your itinerary. So if you're not quite sure if you want to pull the trigger, but there's availability and you think you may, you can go ahead and put a hold on that, and you've got a little bit of time to sort yourself out, or even if you figure out if you want to.
I know there's availability into February. I'm not exactly sure where Carnival falls next year, but it's high season, so it's definitely worth taking a look. And also for those of you who are looking to fly more and not so concerned about the luxury, it's also wide open in economy,
which is going to be $30K.
Which is $30K. It's not, especially that's kind of the standard price.
Man,
but
I'm feeling
it's good
nostalgic.
to have that in high season,
Do you remember the good old days of 20,000 mile awards to Brazil?
I do.
Man, that's
in fact, I'm glad you mentioned that. That's a great segue here, because while we're talking about American, I did want to point out that there's actually a way to use American Express membership rewards to book flights operated by American at slightly better prices than you can book by using American miles. And so this is something that was just recently published. We're going to link to the post that's got a little bit more detail about how all of this works. But the bottom line is, like, American Airlines is a partner of Etihad. So you can transfer your Amex points to Etihad. You can also, incidentally, transfer your City points to Etihad, which is where I usually move points when I need to acquire some new Etihad points. And the rates, it's not exceptionally different, but it's like instead of 57.5, it's 50. Instead of 62.5, it's 52.
Well, beyond the better pricing, the power of this is you can use your Amex points to fly on an American operated flight.
Right. And normally the only other partners from American Express that you could book on American Airlines would be British Airways and Cathay Pacific. Cathay's chart's just not that good in most cases, and British Airways has a lower than 1-to-1 transfer ratio.
Yeah.
So this is definitely the best way that I can think of to use Amex points on an American flight. And so we'll leave it at that. But if you're interested and you have a big stash of Amex points and potentially want to fly somewhere that American travels, this could be a really nice opportunity. The one caveat here that I want to share is that Etihad is one of those programs. There's no way to book this online, so you're going to have to make friends with the friendly folks at the Etihad call center. I actually booked 4 Etihad tickets in the last 2 weeks by phone myself, and it's not that bad. So a lot of stuff online says it's horrible. My experience was pretty good. It's a little bit time consuming. I averaged about 15 minutes per call, but there's no hold time. So at the very least, like, I got through every time I called within 4 or 5 minutes. And it takes a little bit more time than it does with some other programs, but could be worth it to save 5,000 to 10,000 miles on your trip.
Absolutely.
And especially if you're traveling with a group, 2 or 3 people, at that point, you're saving quite a few more miles when you've got a larger group to travel with. All right, so we'll link to more details on that if you want to investigate further. What's next?
Man, this is just one of these how did it happen things. How in the hell did this happen? So what we've got is there is an American police officer that I don't know the current status, but last thing we knew, they were being held in Taiwan because they showed up with a damn gun with ammunition in their carry-on. So shout out to 1 Mile at a Time. This is who broke the story to us. I don't know where he got his information. So this American police officer, she shows up in Taiwan and then realized what she had done, seemed to be forthright about it and said, "Hey guys, I've got a gun. I'm a police officer. It was an accident." But I think 1 Mile at a Time, Lucky puts it perfectly. I don't know what is more ridiculous: the fact that a police officer wasn't more aware of where the hell their gun was, or the fact that the TSA just let a loaded gun go through security. I mean, like, out of all the things, you're gonna make me either chug my water bottle or Coke or whatever before, but you're not gonna check the loaded gun, just literally going through the damn conveyor belt that you have a specialized.
Did you catch what airport she departed from?
Somewhere on the West Coast, I want to say. I'm not positive, but the final destination was Thailand.
Shame on you, West
and
Coast.
She was not allowed to move on because.
She got detained.
And so it looks like if they really wanted to throw the book at her, which I don't think they will, it would be 2 years. But I mean, it's no joke. I mean, I think my guess is what's going to happen here is they're not just say, oh, you're an American cop, so yeah, we all make mistakes, here you go. I would imagine that the U.S. at some level, whether through the embassy, they're going to have to get in contact with the police department and kind of put some clout behind this person, because no one gives a shit who you are when you're in their country. You play by their rules, and that's part of the whole agreement when you travel.
Yeah, I think the most interesting thing here is that the person came clean about it, and that, like, good for you. It seems like, sort of in the perfect world where people take into account those sorts of things, that's probably the right thing to do. But man, if I discovered, if I'm a police officer and I discovered, it seems like the better option is to put the gun and ammo in the nearest trash can and get the hell out of there, and just, not.
Yeah, I think from a personal preservation standpoint, that's probably a safer move. And then you feel like shit. You're like, okay, dodged a bullet there. But the one thing I'm thinking about is this is her issued firearm. What in the hell is she going to tell the captain?
I don't know. Well, I'd rather deal with captain than the Taiwan.
Yeah, I think.
Police, All right. Well, so speaking of TSA, I thought this was interesting and kind of worth mentioning. I just read a post today that TSA passengers left behind more than $867,000 in change and small bills at airport security across the country.
Quick quiz for the people out there. Try to figure out in your head, what do you think the breakdown is? What percentage cash? What percentage change? Because it surprised me.
I don't actually know this, so do you know what the breakdown is?
If I read correctly, the vast majority of it was change. It was like over $700,000 in change.
Oh my god!
And like in this article we're checking out from the points guy, it looks like the amounts of money left behind have increased over the years from just shy of $500,000 to getting closer to $700,000 to exceeding $700,000.
So it turns out the TSA gets to keep that money. So maybe that'll result in lower taxes, but I doubt it.
So what they said is, no way, man. What they said is last year the money went to TSA PreCheck.
Okay,
that's where they said the money went. So I mean,
value PreCheck.
That's one of the times where it's like, I'm okay with that.
All right, so next up in the random news category, I wanted to mention this because I needed this service so badly on my drive to Guarulhos Airport last time when I was in Brazil. So there's a new silent taxi service in Kyoto, Japan, where basically there's certain cabs that are designated as no talk zones, where there's no small talk. It's just hello, goodbye, where are you going, and that's it. And the driver won't talk to you at all unless you, of course, initiate conversation. Then they're free to talk. But man, I got into this guy was really a nice guy. Classic, typical Brazilian, just wanted to be friendly. But I happened to also get caught in 3 hours of rush hour traffic, and eventually I just had to be like, hey, you know what? I got a long flight. I'm gonna take a nap. Is that okay with you? Is it all right if I just sleep back here? But
I think Brazil typically operates in the opposite fashion, where it's an opt out as opposed to opt in with the taxi drivers and conversations. But
have you ever had to just like eject yourself from a conversation like that?
You know what? Actually, it was actually one of the last taxi rides I took in Brazil. Is when I was coming back from the airport in Sao Paulo back into the city. And this driver was just ranting and raving about protests and all the stuff going on. And I just kind of zonked out, and then he did not stop. And he actually woke me up, because when I woke up, he was at this completely different point in the conversation. We were saying, meu dinero. He's talking about, it's my money. I'm like, Jesus, man. Like, but that was interesting. But that's kind of an interesting idea.
I would absolutely patronize that taxi service.
And the funny thing is, I bet you find out that people do talk in those taxi cabs, but they like the security of knowing that they're not going to be overrun with a dumb conversation.
Yeah, and I'm not that guy generally. Like I love making friends with a new person that's driving around. A lot of times you can get interesting and useful information about where you're traveling if you're not familiar with it. But there's definitely those times where just the last thing you want to do is explain what you do and where you're going and all that stuff. So interesting service. Be keen to hear how that works out. So we've got two updates now on the
both related
on the recent United controversy. This all comes down to involuntary boarding, but looks like United's belatedly trying to make it right even more, and Delta's taking some proactive action.
Yeah, so United is going to give a full refund to all the passengers on the flight. And this to me is, I feel like United, this is almost kind of an FU to the guy. Like I know that United's going to deal with their lawyer, and they're probably going to settle for some money. But you know, the United CEO gave the sorry not sorry in a little bit. You know, like he wasn't all that apologetic. He was placing blame. Well, the person resisted, and he was giving all of these reasons on why it escalated, as opposed to saying unacceptable. That should never happen. We're going to make sure it never happens again. And this right here, once again, when in their apology, he didn't apologize directly to the guy that got assaulted, lost his teeth, and had the concussion. They apologized to the passengers that they had to deal with.
He did eventually come back, and it was multiple days afterwards, but he made a third revised attempt at his apology that was quite a bit more genuine.
Sean
and
Spicer,
apologized directly to him.
Fifth time's a charm on saying I screwed up.
And then so the other news, and so again, this all comes down to the whole thing about involuntary denial of boarding. So the rules are that if they overbook a flight, the airline has to first solicit volunteers and offer some compensation. And the amount of compensation that the gate agents and supervisors are allowed to offer varies by airline. It's determined by the
internal
airline.
policy.
And so Delta, I think, just sort of proactively taking advantage of
learning from the competitor's mistake.
Yeah, learning from the mistake and knowing, like, number one, great time to announce that, hey, by the way, we're way better than United, but also something that potentially could avert a crisis for Delta in the future by empowering their employees. I always like to see, you know, like, as a small business owner, maybe I don't understand how complicated it is to empower, you know, thousands of employees. But to me, it's just like, how much can you not trust your frontline employees to just think like, oh, we can't let them offer $2,000 in the event they need to, because they'll always offer, you know, like.
Yeah. So to give you some context, the way Delta used to do it, which I think was somewhat par for the course, maybe generous, was the people at the gate were given the discretion. You know, if no one is biting, you can go up to $800, and then if a supervisor's there, they can go up to $2,000, and they've bumped this up just shy of $10,000. So they're, like you said, they're empowering their employees to feel out the situation, and ultimately, Delta doesn't want to give somebody $8,000 to get on a later flight, but United, if you gave United the chance, hey, all you got to do is pay this guy $150,000 and this whole thing won't even be a thing, they would take that deal. They may not admit that, but the bad press, what it did to their stock, just small price to pay.
Two other things that I learned from this whole denial of boarding thing. Number one, I didn't realize that. So generally, when the airline offers you a voucher, that's exactly what you're getting. You're getting a voucher, and it has some restrictions. I've had some vouchers that are pretty horrible to use, and I've certainly had a few that ended up expiring, or I wasn't able to redeem the whole thing. But I didn't know that it's actually a law that if they involuntarily deny boarding, they actually force you off the flight. They'll still try and give you a voucher, but by law, you can ask for cash, and they have to give it to you.
Interesting.
So the compensation, if you're ever denied boarding involuntarily, as in they're no longer taking volunteers, they've selected you randomly or by status or whatever, if that's the case, be aware you're entitled to cash, and all you have to do is ask for it, and they should give it to you.
You know, one final thought on this, and I don't want to submarine Delta on what seems like them trying to do the right thing, but now that it's public knowledge that they'll give just shy of $10,000 on a flight, if you're getting bumped from a flight and you decide to volunteer and there aren't any other keen volunteers, you don't want to be greedy and say, well, I read an article that said you give $9,900, so I want it. But you could maybe say, hey, I'm not trying to be unreasonable, but no one else seems really interested in getting off this flight. I know that you guys are empowered to, go close to $10,000. I'm not trying to be greedy. Just, $2,500, $3,000,
Yeah, I think, well, the other thing is they can also give you other things. So, you may be able to have some luck with some sort of combo of like, hey, like you're kind of anchored. Like if they offer you $1,000 as a voucher, you could say, hey, that sounds really reasonable, but man, I had this terrible experience with vouchers last time. Can we make it $800 cash? Or, hey, that sounds reasonable, but can I get a free upgrade? Like if I'm going to wait for the flight tomorrow, can I get in first class if it's available? Right. Those are the kind of incremental little just chipping away at the negotiation that could potentially work. And it's always good to know at least what their upper limit is, Yeah.
And if any of you do have that situation, you put on your negotiating cap, please let us know how it goes.
Yes, I would love to hear. Or also any recent experiences with involuntary or with volunteer denial of boarding or asking for volunteers. If you did have any situation like that, I'd be curious to know how much they were offering, what the atmosphere was like as far as how many volunteers were considering it, and what happened. So we'd love to hear that if you guys can shoot us an email if you've had a recent experience there. Okay, so next up, we have a quick update on James, who
Yeah,
emailed
this is
a little while ago to let us know that he was off to buy a very, very cool vintage 2002, I believe, Corvette. And he was out of state. Now, we made the kind of assumption that, he hadn't thought through what we thought was such a great idea of, oh, why don't you just deposit it in a bank? Well, he explained in a follow-up message that wasn't really an option because he was making a really efficient trip. He was flying out in the evening, going to meet somebody after the banks closed, and was planning on driving the car home that night. So he didn't really have time to mess with the possibility of dealing with a bank. Fortunately, everything went just fine. Didn't get stopped or questioned about it at security. Had his money in the carry-on bag that he was, holding very close, I'm sure. Mm-hmm. And basically what he said was just that, he had prepared himself with, the bank receipt for the withdrawal and the information about what he was purchasing in case they wanted to know if he was trafficking, laundering money. But got past security, transferred the cash into a pocket, which makes a ton of sense, like a chest, close to your body. You don't want to be leaving that in the overhead bin. And it worked out great. Got his car.
My question here is, James, you don't have to tell us if you don't want to, but what is your last name? I'm leaning towards Bond, buying sports cars with cash, tucking it in like you've done it before. Oh yeah, just toss 20 grand cash in my sport coat pocket. But good on you, good execution. I didn't realize that it was that efficient. Got off the flight, met the guy. Good for you, man. That's cool.
All right, so before we go to core content, I wanted to share one listener success story for an award booking. Becky wrote in to let us know that she had an awesome experience with Korean and Singapore Air. Took a trip just recently and just said that the quality of the experience was awesome. She had a recent medical thing where having like some extra space and just comfort in the seat was super important. I'm actually kind of in that boat right now. Had my leg get a little bit messed up, and I could just imagine a long haul international flight. She said the flight attendants were impeccable in service and dress. Cabin was clean. A lot of empty seats in the business class cabin, which was nice, have a little bit more space and a little more extra attention. But she said would definitely fly Korean Airlines again, and also had a good experience with Singapore as well. And so that's just awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that, and much appreciated.
Yeah, and one thing I'd like to point out here that is a pretty common theme. She gives us some feedback that Janelle was incredible. So
yes, she's the best.
She's like the secret sauce behind the booking team. She's like part customer service extraordinaire, just such a warm person, understanding person to deal with that's got your back and executes and books great itineraries.
Yeah. Well, congrats on the trip, Becky, and looking forward to seeing you for the next one.
Happy you had a good experience.
All right, so moving on to today's core content. As I said at the top of the show, we're going to run through 5 strategies for being able to meet a minimum spending requirement. And we actually get quite a few questions about this. So it's something that I thought would be worth running through at least the basics of a few options that might be available here. So number one, this is actually my favorite option just because of simplicity, is to buy a Visa or Mastercard gift card. And so the way that works, if you're spending, money normally, let's say you're working on the minimum sign up requirement for the Chase Sapphire Reserve, which is currently $4,000 in 90 days. And let's say typically you only spend $1,000 a month. So if you do your normal spending, you're going to come out about $1,000 short. And so the best strategy to use the gift card method is you just head over to your local Walmart. Lots of pharmacies like Walgreens or CVS have these as well. But you can typically buy $200 or $500 gift cards, and those cost between $3 and $5 as a fee. So it's not 100% free, but it's a relatively low cost. You could spend $10 and get 2 $500 gift cards. And the point is that when you buy those, the spend goes on your card right away. And then you can use that Visa gift card just like you would a regular credit card for your spending over the next month.
When you consider what that fee unlocks for you, it's unbelievably cheap. Paying $10 to allow yourself to get the bonus that could be a round trip, So
yeah, absolutely. Okay, so number 2 is to transfer money to a trusted friend using one of the online payment services. So that could be PayPal, it could be Venmo, or it could be Serve. All of those are sort of peer-to-peer payment networks where generally their business model is that you're going to use your bank account, and it's free for them, so it's free for you if you transfer money to a friend with the bank account. But most of them have an option to be able to use a credit card in exchange for paying a fee. Fee is typically going to be about 3%. I think PayPal's is around 2.7. Not sure about Venmo and Serve, but again, it's a small cost to be able to unlock a big sign-up bonus.
So essentially, you're going to be spending an extra $30 per $1,000 you need to move.
Yep, absolutely. All right, so number 3 is to use Kiva microloans.
This is great. This is, award travel extraordinaire meets philanthropist.
Yes. And I am not wealthy, but I can say that I've done more than $1,000 in Kiva loans, and it's an awesome experience. They do a really nice job. So first of all, just a quick background. Kiva is a nonprofit that loans money primarily to women and families and small entrepreneurs in developing countries. And so typically a group, or sometimes it's solo folks, but a lot of times it's a group or a community of 5 to 20 people that are taking responsibility for the loan. And these loans are for things that just seem so basic. It's like, hey, I've got this thriving business where I sell bed sheets, or I provide this service or that service.
I've got a salon. I cut hair and I need some new scissors and a couple other things. And they're looking for. They're not asking for a $20,000 loan. Often it's in the hundreds of dollars or even less.
Yes, yeah. So the typical loan amount is maybe, I guess I'd say typical is between $1,000 and $5,000. And remember, again, a lot of times these are groups of people that are taking responsibility, and they're investing in inventory. They're investing in being able to expand their business. The cool thing about Kiva is the stories. Like, I really like reading the loan stories, because a lot of times there's a lot of detail about, hey, we've been doing this for it's amazing. We've been doing this business for 10 years and we're at capacity, and we think that we can open up another kiosk or whatever. So it's super cool to know that you're actually helping fund people. Kiva has around a 99% repayment rate. So almost all of the loans end up getting paid back in full. Now, the reason this works as a way to generate spend for your credit card is that because Kiva is a nonprofit, PayPal is giving them no fee transactions on credit cards. So PayPal is actually covering this fee. And what that means for you is that you can load your Kiva account with funds to loan to someone. Using a credit card. And if you load $25, you're going to get a $25 charge on your card, and you're going to have $25 in Kiva. So none of the money gets taken out there. And then you decide who you want to loan to. And typically the loan terms are between 6 months and 2 years. So the one thing I'd recommend is, if you're doing this in a way to try and generate some extra spend, ideally you want to go for the shorter term loans. So 6 is a little bit, today I looked, the shortest was 8. So this is something where you do need to be able to sit on that money and not get it back right away. The second tip that I have is that you probably want to distribute the loans to multiple borrowers, which is also cool because, again, you're actually reading a couple of stories.
A little bit better on your risk profile because, once again, there is a chance that you don't get your money back if you just give one person. If things don't go well, then you might not get your money back. However, like Eric said, the repayment rate is really high, so it's a reasonable expectation. If you spread your money out a little bit, empower a bunch of people on Kiva, statistically speaking, you'll get almost all of your money back. Right.
The key is, if you just loan $1,000 to one group that's borrowing, if that 1% hits you, you're going to lose your whole $1,000. If you loan $25 or $50 to a whole bunch of people, even if 1% of them don't pay back, you're probably only going to lose one of your loans. So that's kind of the big thing about spreading it out. But definitely encourage you guys to check out Kiva. Super cool organization, and it can help you get a little bit of extra spend. All right. Number 4 and 5 are sort of closely related, so it's probably either or here. But that one is, so 4 is to pay your mortgage, and there's a lot of other bills and utilities that you can pay. The service is formerly ChargeSmart, but they've actually either been bought or just changed their name into Tio. I'm not sure why, but Tio, uncle in Spanish. But the way that this works, the fee is just around, it's over 2%. I think it's like 2.5 to 2.7%. So again, something that's probably only going to make sense to hit a minimum spending requirement rather than ongoing expenses. But this is a pretty cool service. It works for utilities. It works with a bunch of national mortgage servicers. And so we'll have the link in the show notes. notes to their How It Works page. It's something to check out if you have a mortgage. Now, number 5 is for paying rent. And we've got links for a couple of different services on the rent front. The one that I liked the best was on RadPad, because they actually offer free payments with debit cards. I'm going to come back to that in a second. With a credit card, the fee is 2.9%. So that's what you're going to need to pay if you're trying to meet the minimum spend on a credit card. But the debit card one is worth it, because you and I have a SunTrust debit card that earns Sky Miles. And that debit card actually went away for at least a year. It was just gone, and they never closed down our account, but it was not open for new card accounts. And it seems to be back now. You can't apply online. You do have to call SunTrust. And I didn't actually have a chance to call them, so I can't say 100% sure. But if you can get a hold of one of these cards, I highly recommend it. As long as you have more than $3,000 in your account as an average balance, there are no fees. Every once in a while, my accounts drop below. I think the monthly fee is $12 if you end up dipping below that 3,000 mark. But RadPad offers free payments for rent of any rent that's under $5,000. So if it's over $5,000, I think the fee's like $10, so that's a little bit high. Yeah. But most people's rent is probably
so what Eric's saying is, if you pay with a debit card on RadPad, there's going to be no fee, as opposed to the 2.9 with the credit card, as long as your rent is under $5,000.
Exactly.
And if your rent is over $5,000, you're probably not worried about manufacturing spend to hit a minimum
you're probably spending enough money to be okay. But this is something I want to look into. I guess we can report back. I know the one thing that also is nice is it doesn't matter whether your landlord likes the idea of online payments. If they're still living in the 19th century and want you to,
a check cutting service,
deposit some gold for them or whatever, it doesn't matter, because that's what they do. They mail a check to your landlord, so they don't know the difference. They don't know you're paying by credit card. Everybody's happy. All right, that's it. So quick recap: buy a gift card, transfer money to a friend using PayPal, Venmo, or Serve. One thing to I don't think I mentioned this the first time through, is make sure that your friend doesn't send the money back to you using that service.
That can be a red flag.
Definitely going to red flag you. I've heard of a lot of stories of people getting their account shut down. So have your friend mail you a check, or have your friend, if you pay them on PayPal, have your friend use Venmo to send it back, whatever. Just don't do a straight back and forth. That's going to get you in trouble. Again, number 3 is Kiva microloans. Number 4, paying your mortgage. We recommend ChargeSmart, formerly ChargeSmart, now Tio, and pay your rent. We've got a couple of different services, so you can check them out. The pricing is more or less the same for all of them, but there's a few different options, so you can pick the one that makes the most sense.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's going to do it for this week's show. Thank you guys so much for being with us.
One final thing. Like Eric said, if you guys ever think you're in the same neighborhood or town or area, would love to meet up with you. And one more thing, Scott, once again, thank you very much for a very nice afternoon. And if any of you guys want to see our ugly mugs, actually, Scott took a picture with Eric and I. That'll be on the show notes page. So, yeah.
Great, man. All right, so this week's International Jam, I usually am scraping through Spotify looking for these, but this one was on our local Latino radio station. I was out on a little bit of a grocery
love that. There's
run.
like a handful of really good like Latino pop and rock stations in Austin.
So this is not a new song. This is definitely, I don't know any of the history. I wasn't as well prepared as I should have been, but I know that I was listening to this when you and I were in Argentina together, like in 2011. So this is not a new track. The song is called Clavado en un Bar, and the artist is Maná, M-A-N-A.
Man, what does clavado mean?
I don't know. I want to say it's like trapped or like stuck in a bar.
Trapped in a bar, yeah.
That's happened to me before. Thanks again for being with us. We will see you guys next week, 8 a.m. Eastern Standard. Wherever you are, travel safe.
Cheers.
Hey, brothers, don't be shy. Hop over to the website and join our email list for exclusive travel hacking content. If you like what we're up to, the best way you can support the show is by leaving us a 5-star review on iTunes. Lastly, we would love to hear from you, so send your show feedback to